guys, welcome to episode 18 of my Mortal Realms review series. This episode we'll be reviewing issue 18. Julia's not with me at the moment. She won't be on this episode because it's about midnight and she's knackered from basically heat stroke and various other things because today was ridiculously hot. It probably wasn't just ridiculously hot for England. And I've literally had to just wait for it to cool down because it just completely wrecked me this morning. I decided to build something and I did it in the sun, and that was a bad idea. But here we are now. So without any further ado, let's open up this magazine and see what we got with it. This isn't a massive savings issue, if there's any savings at all, to be fair. We've got a base of dried bark, which is actually a very beautiful deep brown. I like it from mud and things like that. And then some lead belcher, which is a nice solid sort of dark gunmetal silver, or gunmetal metallic. Not my favourite colour for weapons. I tend to use more of it in 40k on bolters, to be honest. But it is a solid silver, particularly for chainmail and things like that. It looks really good. And the other thing we've got, and I may have to stand up to show you the full side of this, is another battle mat. These battle mats are frankly awesome. There we go. And this one, cool enough, is completely double-sided. So you've got this side here, which looks very like the Realm Mortalis big 40k thing. And you've got this side here, which has some elven-looking stuff on it, some plants, and that looks like it would work well for dryads or anything else like that, and has a bunch of normal scenery as well. So that's pretty cool. I've got a tape measure. I must have a tape measure somewhere here. Yeah. So here's the tape measure, so we can see how big it is. It is 56 inches wide. That's what? Is that inches or centimetres I'm looking at? No, that is centimetres I'm looking at. That's much better. It's 56 centimetres wide, which makes it about 22 inches wide. That's better. And then lengthwise, let's get on with it lengthwise. What? It is, straight up, 32, 33, 30, about 34.5 inches wide, or 88 centimetres thereabouts. Not exactly, about a mil off, which are odd lengths, but yeah, it's a fantastic battle mat. It's got a nice thick cardboard. I mean, you might want to laminate it anyway, or adhese it to wood, just to keep it. But for a temporary battle mat, it's really gonna work out there. Jeez. It's like thicker than the magazine. I don't know how much paper battle mats cost because not many people do them, but that's got to be worth a couple of quid. That's got to be worth a couple of quid of anybody's money. So with these two paints, you've got 550. This is big enough and cool enough that it could easily bring the value up to the $7.99 that the magazine's worth. So, you know, and you'll still get the magazine on top of that. So whilst it might not be the best value for money saving issue, certainly there's a lot of cool stuff in here, and it is certainly it's certainly reasonable value for money. You're at least, I think, getting your money back in this issue. Do you want to come say hello to the video, Julia? No. Yeah. I think everybody got a bit of heat stroke today, and she's far too tired to actually do the video. All right, what have we got? We've got a nice little blurb with a signing from Ian there, the Dark Lord of the Undead. First up, we've got the Storm Host Anvils of Heldenhammer. They've been giving us a Storm Host pretty much every issue at the moment, which is good because there are loads of them. Let's have a look. The Anvils of Heldenhammer are dark and brooding heroes from a much older era. They have come to embrace the death they once feared. Apparently. Black Armour Storm Host based in the realm of Death Shaish. Their great storm keep, the Grand Necropolis, stands in the city of Lethis. And you can tell how hot it is. It's midnight and I'm still sweating. Gee whiz. I was not built for hot weather. Their flesh is corpse pale and they are feared by many of Shai's citizens. Sigmar has tasked the Anvil's sacrosanct chamber with scouring the furthest corners of Shaish in hopes of unearthing the secrets of immortality. Though they risk losing their souls in seeking such knowledge, they know the cost of the Stormcast Eternal will be severe should they fail. So that's pretty cool. Got some more stuff there, some ancient souls and heroes. And we've got a couple of characters here. Tordok Istavar. Tordok Istavar is a judicator and so bears the symbols of the star of the Justicar Conclaves. And then you've got Ghislaine Sindarus. If anybody knows how to pronounce these better, please feel free to drop something in the comments. And he's a Decimator Prime. He bears the iconography of the Paladins Conclave. Then he goes on to explain how the Anvils of Heldenhammer have a large sacrosanct chamber, and they spend centuries gathering knowledge across Shaish, which makes sense with Nagash really being the main enemy at the moment. It's one of the things I like about the Age of Sigmar. Everybody's fighting everybody, and everybody's kind of got a bit of a specialist attachment, or detachment for fighting specific people. Next, we're moving on to some of the cool old school models, the Cities of Sigmar. You've got a former Imperial citizen wielding a Zweihander, which, for those of you who hate the way I pronounce German, means two-handed sword. Is it Zweihander? I don't know. And I should, my wife's German. And it goes through to describe the cities. They're a fantastic example of civilization in the mortal realms. And they're usually built around the storm keeps. And it is worth remembering that there are still humans and baseline human forces in the storm realms, and a lot of them have inherited certain images, certain imagery, and certain weaponry and certain styles from whatever order of humanity they were part of to begin with. The only thing we haven't properly seen is Bretonnians, but maybe they'll come in the future. I don't know. Certainly Empire and a lot of the others are still around. We know the Bretonnians still exist, kind of, in the form of the Crypt Lords and the Ghoul-based armies for Nagash, which are heavily based on old feudal lords. So there's a lot of assumption that those guys, because they think they're lords, because they think they're noble knights from a bygone era, are in fact what's possibly left of the Bretonnians. Which is cool, but certainly not that much fun for anybody who's stuck with a Bretonnian army. Fortunately, I don't have mine anymore. I used to have one back when they had the wedge formations and were hench as fudge. It then goes on to describe Hallowheart, a city of wild and living magic, which is in the realm of fire. And it gives you some descriptions of that and the position where it is in the old world, or in the realm of fire. Sorry guys. I've got here the burning gem of Hallow. Sorry, I'll do the voice. The burning gem of Hallowheart symbolizes the city's great mining industry, immense wealth, and its deep association with magical learning and prowess. It's just a shiny diamond. So that's all pretty cool. And it goes on to describe how awesome that is and how a lot of the stuff works there. Oh, actually, is that a follow-on? Because there's a lot of dwarfs there. Yep. So that's pretty cool. It is worth remembering a lot of the forces of order and the cities. The cities of Sigmar aren't uniquely populated by humans. A lot of them are populated by humans, dwarves, some elves, particularly wood elves, are actually more in the cities of Sigmar than they are in the realm of life. But that's just because when it became apparent they couldn't win, they retreated. But apparently the Dryads expected them to die, which seems weird to me because the Dryads kind of retreated as well. They all fled underground and hid themselves. Yet they blame the elves for doing the same thing. You know, it's like there's only so much they could do. But that's between Dryads and elves. Next we've got Nighthaunts. The Nighthaunts are no longer content to lurk at the edge of civilization, preying upon the weak. Now they have gathered in huge spectral armies bent on vengeance. Each of the Geists has been condemned to an afterlife of damnation and torture by Nagash's cruel curses. There you go. So yeah, we've got more description here about how the Nighthaunts are rising, about how they're forming big armies rather than the smaller stuff they used to have. Which a lot of it is that's down to Necrocrake. Then we've got the Thorny Bribe, which is a piece of scenery by the looks of it. This plant is commonly associated with the undead and Nighthaunts in particular. Its barbs represent the spirit's eternal pain and cruelty of existence. It then goes on to say how some people like Lady Orlando manifest Thorny Brides growing up and twisting from the ground. I don't know what it's like in other countries, but certainly in England, a common plant, well, two common plants in graveyard are brambles and blackberry bushes, which are basically just interwoven tendrils of plants with massive spikes on them. They're like natural barbed wire. They won't affect you, just straighten up. They wouldn't affect somebody wearing armour, but obviously the supernatural version, Thorny Bribe, totally would. Just give kind of you a scale. The size of my fingernail there, which is a fairly normal fingernail, I think, on my little finger, that's kind of the size of a lot of the thorns you get on both bramble bushes and blackberry bushes. It's also worth noticing you get a lot of blackberries on blackberry bushes, so you know they're a great source of fruit. Yeah, but they are a common thing to grow around graveyards, particularly because they keep people out. You know, they're very much a popular plant, just because having a hedge of brambles or a hedge of blackberries, A, provided food, and B, kept people away from the graves. So Warhammer's developed their own version of that, which is cool. It then goes on to the hatred for the living, which they have discussed before, but it says there are many types of Nightgaunt spirits, but all have one thing in common: they hate the living. Some, like Cain Wraiths, whereas wicked in life as their own death. Others, like Grave Wraith Stalkers and Chain Rasps, are embittered by the curse of their afterlife, for they are bound to an eternity of torment and jealousy. And some Geists believe that slaying the living will earn them their freedom, which is not actually true in any way, apparently. Next, we have Forces of Destruction. Orcs. Orcs and possibly goblins. It's a nice bit here. Let's have a look at the blurb. The Forces of Destruction fight with a raw bestial fury. When they gather in great enough numbers, I can't even read this. They are capable of destroying any foe, even the mighty Stormcast Eternals. Orcs always used to be the massive horde, and they really lent into that for the new edition. You've got multiple types of orcs. You've got orcs that don't wear anything; they go into battle like maniacs. You've got the standard orcs, which are basically huge armored behemoths who ride into battle on the back of like bulldogish dragons and boars, all run into battle like that. The goblins are there in the Forces of Destruction as well, but they're slightly different. And most importantly, their god Gorka Morka is there as well. Sometimes, it's a two-headed god, but sometimes it's represented as one god, other times it's represented as two separate gods, and they both cover certain aspects of destruction. Let's have a look. Gorka Morka is a two-headed god of destruction. Each head has its own personality, though they are similar. The two sides of Gorka Morka often clash. When they do so, they split into two gods, Gork and Mork. Gork is more ferocious, but Mork is more cunning. And you can see where the orcs may focus primarily on Gork, and the goblins may focus primarily on Mork. However, there are aspects in both armies that focus on both sides. There are orcs that try and be more cunning. There are goblins that try and be more furious. This one's focusing just on the orc tribes at the moment. We'll probably get the goblins later, but you've got the Iron Jaws, who consider themselves the biggest and the strongest. And you can see those guys there with massive armour and fighty claws. You can certainly see they bulked up for Age of Sigmar, I guess because they had to. And they have taken a lot of aesthetic ideas from the Warhammer 40k orcs, which does mean that there's a certain sameness, but at the same time does mean that you've got a lot of convertibility. You can nick stuff from the 40k orcs to use on the Iron Jaws. You can nick stuff from the Iron Jaws to use on the 40k orcs, so that's pretty cool. Following them, we've got the Bone Splitters. Bone Splitters are considered weird even by other orcs. Having lost themselves to the great Gireen god Gorka Morka. There is no hunters these foes cannot run down. When possessed with a battle fury, weird magic, they are capable of destroying even the most well-equipped and heavily armoured foes. And you can see there they are pretty undressed. While there are tribes of Bone Splitters, initially what I thought was like they were a separate thing, like high in the mountains or something. But it turns out every time orcs go to war, even the Iron Jaws, some orcs lose themselves to the war spirit. They start taking their armor off and adding, just looking for bigger clubs or bone weapons, and then they're just welly into it. And those orcs tend to form groups. So it's almost like a religious experience for them. A bit like the old Berserker death cult of the Vikings, who, in case you didn't know, actually all mostly worshipped Odin, because Odin was the god of death. Not to be confused with the god of the dead or the god of the afterlife, which was hell. But Odin was the one who decided where you went, and it was his Valkyries that carried you there. So a lot of the Berserkers had to prove themselves to Odin, because he told it was up to him whether you went to Hell's realm below or to Asgard to feast at the tables of Valhalla. So a bit similar to that, not exactly, nowhere near the same, but a bit similar to that appears to be the Bone Splitters idea. They are possessed by the spirit of Gorka Morka, and they're trying to do their best to have a massively cool death, which is nifty. The realms. Next we're looking at the realm of Verdier. Behind the city walls of Hammerhall. Sorry, got something in my eye. Behind the city walls of Hammerhall, Gyra, lie the green expanses of Verdier. In the vine thick forests lurk Nurgle's foul maggotkin. Their greedy hearts set on despoiling nature and corrupting the entire region with their foul disease. In response, the anvils of Heldenhammer sent an army beyond the walls to smite them. We've got a nice little story here on that, a nice description of the Maggot King. So a nice little story here, nice description of the Maggot King and what they are. Which I'll not ruin for you by reading all. And here we have lines of swordmen using swords like spears. They must have incredibly strong wrists. Wrists, yes. And yeah, Verdier is in Gyra. Hammerhall is a city that's grown up between two sides of the Storm Rift Realm Gate. One side of the city lies in Akshra, the realm of fire, and the other side lies in Gyra, the realm of life. So Verdier is... Oh, sorry, the Battle of Verdier. Verdier is part of the realm of life, and you've got a nice story here to explain where it is and what's going on with it, apparently. Next, more how to paint the Sigmarite Mausoleum, because we've got two more paints that are useful to it. As they're using the dry bark here, you can see to cover the earth colours. I hope you can see. And again, as I said, this makes a great dark sort of metal, so they're using it to paint a lot of the spikes and that. Looks like they've just base painted it at the moment. They may well cover washing it later. I tend to wash it in non-oil, or well, actually I tend to wash it in Army Painter Strong Coat because it's kind of browner than non-oil, but still really dark, and then when you dry brush up you get a good effect. But that's just me. Next, we've got the Domain of Death. You're using all of your... My brain has failed now. So I'm going to turn to the next page because it will give me stats. Sequitous, thank you. You're using all 5 of your Sequitous here and a bunch of your Chain Rasps with what looks like some of the special characters there. We've got it in the Catacombs. It's on the small map, which is surprising because we've just got the big one. But I hope we'll get that next sheet. Next we've got your standard reference sheet. Right. The new rule this week is Bravery, with the war scrolls below covering Bravery. I'm thinking in this you're going to get a lot of spare war scrolls that you can chuck at the end of it. Each war scroll having extra stuff on it. You're only going to need kind of the last ones. It then goes through Bravery, which is fairly simplistic. Your A move, B wounds, C A move, B safe, C wounds, but then D Bravery. Every unit has a Bravery value. This is used when making battle shock tests during the battle shock phase. Rules for the battle shock phase are explained in this playthrough. So here are your stats. You can see that the Sigmarites rocking in with a Bravery of 7, and we've got Bravery of 6 for the Chain Rasps. Not very brave, but then Undead Forces don't tend to be very brave because a lot of the time they're not fully there mentally. They're kind of in a half confused state between living and death, strangely called undeath. And as they're constantly suffering, they don't tend to like more suffering. And I do believe some of them aren't aware that they can't really die. And there's also the thing that if they fail if they die, Nagash is probably going to torture them more. We've got the playthrough there describing the charges and the like. Then you're basically going in, attacking, killing as normal. Then we get the battle shock phase, which is on this page. So let's go. Both players must take battle shock tests for each unit that has had models slain during the turn. The player whose turn it was, test first, or turn it is, tests first. Choose a unit that has lost models. Roll dice. Add 1 to the result for every slain model that the unit has suffered. Check the unit's bravery characteristic. If the bravery roll is greater than the unit's bravery characteristic, the battle shock test has failed. So you roll a dice. If you get, say, if you've lost 2 men and you roll 5, you go 5, 6, 7, adding the 2 onto it. And if that was Chain Rasp, for example, who only have 6, they'd run. And it says specifically greater than. So if it was for the Sequitors who have 7, they'd hold because it was 7. If the Sequitors lost a 3rd one, or if you rolled a 6 and you added 2 on 7, 8, the Sequitors would then run. So it's important to remember it is greater than rather than equal to or greater than. If the battle shock roll is lower than the unit's bravery characteristics, the battle shock test has been successful. It's worth noting that the Chain Rasps, if they roll, could flee without losing any people, but the Stormcasts can't. That 1 extra point means that you have to have lost people to run away. If the Stormcasts haven't lost any people, if they've held that line, they're not going anywhere, which is really quite good. Once you start losing people, it depends how many people you lose. And again, you can see that you can see here that having 2 wound models does make a difference. If you only take 1 wound, then you've lost no one and you're not going anywhere. You literally, you can't, unless there's another rule that affects your bravery, which obviously there are from some things. That's time too. Right. Where are we? 7. For each point by which the modified roll exceeds the unit's bravery characteristic, a model in that unit must flee. Count that model. Models that flee count as slain. So your models basically die, but they don't actually die. What happens is they run away and they're not part of the battle anymore, which must be embarrassing if you're a Stormcast. You decide which of the models from a unit flee, remove them from play and count them as having been slain. The opposing player then selects a unit and has to take a test, and so on until all the units are failing tests. So, it is actually a change from previous editions. With previous editions, you ran away and you had turns to try and turn those units around. This basically, again, they've taken this from 40k, where if units couldn't run away, they just died. There were certain rules that prevented that. What it does is it makes the battle quicker. It removes guys from the board. It means you're not constantly rolling to try and bring your guys back, and it's allowed them to change very much the nature of the game. With horde armies like goblins, it's allowed them to bring more goblins in, because where they die easily and then you lose battle shock, you die and more die, the army gets whittled down faster. Whereas previously they'd die, they'd flee, and then you'd spend ages trying to get them back, and they might come back, at which point you would laugh, you were really happy, or they might not come back, at which point you might lose. And it could very much be a polarizing thing of, if you could rally your troops, you could win. If you couldn't rally your troops, you could lose, and your troops ran away, because most horde armies suffer from low leadership, except Skaven, who were cheesy as fudge, but that's what you expect from mice. Just in case you don't know what I'm talking about, Skaven had a rule where the more ranks they had, the more leadership they had, and I think they've got something similar still. But in the previous versions, it basically meant that they were ridiculously OP. They had loads of cool weapons. Their troops were cheaper, which meant they bought weapons at half price, which meant their points costs were very low. The claim was that it was because they had less leadership, but if you actually compared the stats of a giant pack block, which most people ran, you would have +1 initiative, because Skaven had +1 initiative, +1 movement, because Skaven had +1 movement over normal humans, and then the downside was they'd only have 6, maybe 7, depending on the models of leadership, but then you added it and it was to a maximum of 10. So what you actually had was a unit that hit first, or hit faster than, for example, their human counterparts, moved faster than their human counterparts, and had better leadership than their human counterparts, because they usually had big big blocks of Skaven with leadership 10. So the whole idea that you could shock the army and it would run, which was in their background, wasn't a thing. And there were always more of them because their units were cheaper. Their guys were per model cheaper. There used to be rules like if you were below 4 points or something like that, you got your weapons at half price. And because Skaven's base stat line was terrible, they were below that. But because they had a rule that then got rid of that disadvantage, they weren't below that. And it was like, you'll find rules like that throughout Warhammer and Warhammer 40k and Age of Sigmar. It's just something they kind of like to do to make people play in certain ways or make it advantageous to play in certain ways. Sometimes they're good. Sometimes you do wonder what the point of it is. For example, in the old Space Wolf things, the Blood Claws, which were their junior, their neonates, would charge the enemy if it was close. But if you put a character in, they wouldn't. So I was like, here is a rule that you'll never have because you'd always put a character in it. Kind of pointless. Anyway, rant over. Obviously, we've got the next turns run through, including your battle phase. And here we go. And here we are. Here's your last turn. And here, enter the realm of life. That's why I looked at LV, because it was Shaishi. I hope we're getting some of this scenery. This scenery looks amazing. But we've got this stuff. Here you got one half of the battle mat that we used. The issue 4 battle mat and the issue 18 battle mat are specifically designed to go together. The reverse side can be used with the battle mat you received in issue 4, allowing for even larger epic battles, as we can see. The Realm of Life is on its own thing. I don't know why it's at the end saying this issue comes with a battle mat, as if you'd have read the whole magazine and just held the battle mat carefully there and then, oh, it's a battle mat, I didn't see it. But it does put at the end, this issue comes with a new battle mat for you to use in your games of Age of Sigmar. This new battle mat is covered with highly detailed printed terrain, showing the remains of an ancient overgrown ruin. From issue 21 onwards, you'll make your first steps into the realm of life. So 3 issues time. Fighting battles in its thick, unforgiving jungle. Prepare to march through the realm gate and begin to fight to save Gairan from the Nighthorn procession. So you're fighting the undead, but in the realm of life, which is cool. The next 20 issues of your Mortal Realm collection take you to the green verdant forest of Gairan, the realm of life. Here, in the depths of the jungle, between the Nighthaunt and the Stormcast Tunnel continues. The battle between the Nighthaunt and the Stormcast Tunnel continues, and Sigmar and Nagash's rivalry reaches new levels. So that's pretty cool. It says from the next 20, but it also says starting from issue 21. So from issue 21 to issue 40, it's going to be a lot of Gairan stuff. So that's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to that. Issue 19. Issue 19 comes with these guys. So a few more heroes for your infantry and a hero for your knight. Spirit of Torment, Knight of Shroud, and Guardian of Soul. So that's pretty cool. I think those are all heroes or independent figures. I assume they come with some of the battle boxes because a lot of this stuff does. But you're going to be saving money on that. And then issue 20, those fantastic looking models. You've got the Lord Arcanum and the Evocator Prime charging into battle. So you've got your basic badass wizard. And I think the Evocators, from what I remember, are more priests. I don't know which one is which, but you get that awesome Griffin horse. So that's going to be a fantastic model to build and paint. Really looking forward to that. Rambled on for a little long here, guys, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you again. Maybe next week, maybe in 2 weeks' time. It entirely depends on how stuff gets eased and how that stuff affects the printers of the magazine and Games Workshop themselves. I've literally forgotten who prints this magazine in my brain. Where are we? Hatchet. Yeah, so I have to see how the relaxing lockdown affects Hatchet and how it affects GW as well. I know a lot of people are being a little warier, a little on the wary side compared to what the government's doing. and that seems fair enough, particularly given a lot of the stuff that's going on. I am being particularly wary as well, but that's just because that's primarily because A, I'm vulnerable, and B, I work with old people, so yes, I'm relaxing, but I'm not going to relax beyond 2 meters and stuff like that, just because there's no reason to take a chance with other people's lives for me. But you guys do what you think is right. I will see you guys when I see you guys, basically. Have a nice fortnight. Bye. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed that video, and if you did, remember to like and subscribe to my channel. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter. Not sure why, but I am. So if you like it, see me there, and please tell your friends. Thanks very much. Bye.